India, way back when we looked at organic agriculture as an option, we realized that organic agriculture is supposed to be more sustainable and beneficial. We had additional consideration of would it be beneficial for small farmers? Would it be beneficial for disadvantaged farmers? And we realized that in India, the farmers are disadvantaged for two counts. One is if they have very small landholdings, maybe 1 or 2 acres or 3 acres, then they can't produce enough. They have a high cost of inputs. And second is even if some farmers owns, let's say, larger pieces of land, then also if their soils are affected by, let's say, salinity or alkalinity, then also they don't produce enough because cultivation is very difficult and the cost of inputs are very high. So these are the two categories of farmers who are a focus of attention right from the beginning. This particular piece of land which you are seeing over here, this is supposed to be a land which represents the salinity affected soils in India. There must be about 40-50 million hectares across the country owned by maybe about the equal number of farmers. So such a large number of farmers have not been benefited from the modern technology, or let's say even with the green revolution technology or chemical technology of agriculture. So we have now been able to develop a complete technology package wherein these lands can be brought under production through organic methods, which is certifiable as per European or USDA standards. This particular tree which you are seeing here is it's a gooseberry tree. Local language it's known as Amla. Amla is well known both as a fruit as well as a vegetable, and is also an ingredient for many recipes of Ayurvedas. This is possibly the best source of vitamin C, which doesn't get destroyed even whatever processing you do with the amla. Now if we are able to, let's say, plant about 100 trees per acre, and if a farmer owns only about 200 trees, if he has 200 trees, then one tree would be able to give him about 20-25 kgs of amla. So a farmer can make a living by even planting amla trees under organic management, get it certified as organic and sell as organic output.
It's been encouraging to see what you are doing. But tell me a little bit how you procured a lot of farmers, small farmers, and how many. And India being such a vast country, cumin grows here, some fennel grows there. So how do you manage all that?
Actually, the whole thing now, of course, it's more than 12 years that we have been promoting organic agriculture in India.
Right.
But way back, if I recollect, we actually first of all looked at one very important issue of inputs going into agriculture from two perspectives. One was the cost of input and second was the contamination it causes to the environment,
Right.
and then ultimately into the food chain. While we looked at these two issues, we realized that organic production methods is something which is required not only to consumer or not, but even for the sustainability of production.
Indeed.
In India is required. So from that perspective, when we started and then we started experimenting with the various inputs and technologies, we identified vermiculture technology. Back in 1995, we pioneered a very simple method of vermiculture. We introduced vermiculture across the country, and starting with about 500 farmers in 1995, by about year 2000, we had over 1 million farmers across the country who had adopted this technology.
Gupta ji, what is basically vermiculture?
Vermiculture is essentially the earthworms.
Yeah,
Earthworms naturally would do what they are supposed to be doing,
indeed.
ingesting organic matter and throwing out excreta.
Right.
But their guts are made in such a way that all pathogenic bacteria gets killed in their guts, and only the beneficial microbes goes out along with the excreta, which is known as vermicasting.
Right.
This is like a input which they eat, let's say feed, would contain, let's say, total nutrient of 1%.
Right.
But by the time it comes out of their guts, it contains about 5-6% nutrient.
Okay.
So that is a multiplier effect which they create. And earthworms are capable of doing it naturally. That is their behavior.
Yeah.
What we have managed to do is that to learn their behavior and create those conditions in a way wherein they are able to do their natural behavior,
Right.
wherein it can be harvested by us. So this has been the pioneering effort which went into the whole thing and which provided us the outreach.
So what do you mix with it?
Vermiculture can be done with any farm waste, animal waste.
Right.
Essentially, a poor farmer in India would have, let's say, 1 or 2 animals. So he would have some dung coming out of the animal,
Right.
and he would have some crop waste. So whatever is non-edible crop waste, edible crop waste goes into animal feed.
Indeed.
So non-edible crop waste goes into feeding earthworms.
Right.
So let's say an acre of land with one animal can produce enough nutrient to sustain the entire production. So you don't actually need any external input for that.
So that nutrient is good for the land.
It's good for the land. It actually rejuvenates the entire land. You see, this actually, what happens is that whenever you use chemicals, chemicals are like mild acids.
Right.
Let's say if as a human being I drink HCl or if I drink, let's say, nitric acid, I would die
Yes.
because that concentration. But if I drink a very mild acid, then also it would affect, but I may not be able to see it. So chemical fertilizers has actually killed the entire microbial life below the ground. So what we need is to revive it back. So vermiculture actually revives, re-energizes the soils.
So it's having the bad effect over a long period of time.
Yes.
And could it be said that things like cancer could be caused by pesticide residue?
I think the way the food contamination has taken place, there are two major sources of contamination. One is pesticides and second is heavy metal contamination, which is also happening maybe because of urban sewage water or water being drawn from very great depth below the ground. So these two contaminations are definitely known, proven worldwide that they are the cause of cancers. They are also the cause of some of the heart problems. They are also the cause of, let's say, gastroenteritis or maybe some other kinds of, maybe even paralysis. So these are all proven facts. So if we can go back to a method of cultivation wherein we don't use these pesticides, we are not required to use these pesticides. You see, this is another beautiful thing which happens in a country like India, which is a tropical climate.
Right.
The moment you have taken care of your soil productivity and its fertility, pest management automatically gets solved.
Now, for example, the insect will still be prevalent?
No, this is what I'm saying. You see, it's a very simple science. I don't know why agriculture scientists have not been able to see it. If suppose you apply urea into a wheat crop,
Right.
when you apply urea, nitrogen out of urea would get absorbed by the plants. The plants would immediately start to grow. Now the density won't get created. So only the diluted plant sap would get created. This diluted plant sap is actually a good feed for, let's say, flying insects.
Right.
And they would multiply fast and all that would start happening. But suppose you are not applying urea, then you are allowing plant to grow naturally. While the plant is growing, the density and the plant sap density is such that it's not good to feed on it by the flying insects.
So
they don't feed.
insects won't come.
So they don't come over there.
So you actually repel them.
Repel them. You actually don't provide them feed, so they are not there. There is no feed, they don't come over there.
Oh God.
The same holds true with even viruses. The same holds true with a lot of funguses which are in the soil. If you have a soil which is rich in biological life, you would never have any virus or fungus problem in your soil.
So if we are cultivating land the organic way, that also means that whatever water goes down, that will be pure.
That is 100% pure because this water has not been contaminated by any other means. The production in India can be divided into 14 agroclimatic zones.
Right.
Each agroclimatic zone would produce different crops. So let's say zone 1. Let's say in zone 1 you can cultivate wheat, paddy.
Right.
But there would be zone 2 where you can cultivate only, let's say, some rain-fed crops, some pulse, some moong, some spice and maybe wheat. Zone 3 you can't even do wheat. So you can only do some pulses and some spices. So like that, the entire country is divided into 14 agroclimatic zones, which all 14 agroclimatic zones put together delivers you over 400 types of farm outputs. My second problem was that in India, organic farming is a good bargain for small producers. Now, small producers would also be able to give small quantities as marketable surplus. Now, individually, they have no meaning, no role actually to get into modern marketing systems.
No.
You need to have numbers. Now, to have numbers, you need to go out to reach those numbers. So, what we essentially started to do, we started to get entrepreneurs in villages and rural areas to come forward. We started helping these entrepreneurs to communicate our message. We would train them into technology. We would train them into record maintenance procedures. And slowly these people then became the torch bearer to go and communicate with the small producers.
Really?
This has actually started to provide the bulk. So even if let's say, I'd like to give an example of cumin. I have about 500 farmers who cultivate cumin in Pali district in Rajasthan.
As many as that.
As many as that.
Yeah.
Each farmer would do, let's say, about 3 acres and average yield of 2 quintals per acre, so only about 6-7 quintal per farmer. But 500 of them put together gives me almost 500 tons.
Indeed.
So that is the kind of thing which we have been able to do. First, we were doing it through only sheer manpower, their hard work. Subsequently, now we have developed some online tools, internal control system tools, quality management tools, technology transfer tools. These are now all online tools, which has now provided us the ability to also maintain the 100% traceability and transparency into the organic production value chain.
But you must have had some problem in being trusted.
That is quite natural actually. These small farmers have been exploited so much by the systems, maybe technology, scientists, administration, assistants, whatever it is, that it takes some time. But we have realized that over a period of, it takes anywhere between 1 or 2 crop seasons to finally build that kind of trust that yes, he starts to believe us. So that it has of course now become a very smooth procedure, but yeah, in the initial stage it was very difficult to get farmers to get convinced and start adopting. And we have never pushed anything. Like we would not say that, okay, you'll have to start from this date. You would always say, you start when you are convinced.
Right.
So that has been our strength, which has provided us this volume.
So what is the next part of the story?
So we have worked very hard for almost 10 years into getting production in place. Now we are wanting to establish the supply chain. We are now wanting the processing to come in place. We are now wanting value additions to come in place. So we are looking forward to joining hands with partners across the globe.
Indeed.
We have now some partners here in India. We have been exploring partnerships with other, at least those organizations who are already into food businesses.
Right.
If they can come forward, if we can share our strengths with them, they would have strengths in the front end.
Indeed.
They would know the consumer markets, they would know the distribution system. And if we both can join hands, then we would be able to finally be able to take the benefit to the producer as well as to the consumer also.
Indeed.
Eating organic is a huge advantage to a consumer.
Indeed.
Maybe a consumer spends something extra, but then he's saving on his treatment maybe on cancer or maybe on some other disease or maybe on some other lifestyle diseases which they are affected with. So this is how the complete chain linking the producer to consumer would take place.
Beautiful. And you have actually achieved it.
In some cases, yes, we already started doing it, but now the time has come when we must expand and increase the scale of operation.
Now, how many farmers are there together now?
You see, as a development foundation, we currently have about 250,000 farmers enrolled with us.